Well, it's February, and boy, as February arrived, did we get off to a cracking year after a reasonably quiet January. Well, in January's forecast, I did mention that we were going to have issues with regards to South African foreign policy and image in the world that would be somewhat problematical. Seems like I was really right as we got to the beginning of February. That's when that really emerged in issues that the American government has with our policies and with who we are in the world and so on. And even in the year ahead, that looked like that would be particularly relevant during the second quarter of the year. And so we're still going to see some further development in all the engagement and issues that are arising with our relationship with the United States. On the whole, and many of you will realize this has been on and off in what I've been talking about for the past many months, the area of South Africa's chart to do with foreign policy and foreign relations and friends and enemies and all those things that happen with other countries has been quite active, relatively speaking. And it's always looked for months now that we're talking about changes in foreign policy. And that's very much more evident, of course, in the chart of February. That the chart of February makes it very clear that there will be confusions and struggles to do with allies and enemies. Well, we don't easily categorize people into allies and enemies. The United States has never particularly been an enemy of ours, and presumably is still not an enemy of ours. But certainly, it does look like we're going to have difficult interactions with foreign countries. That must be primarily them, and that we're not seen clearly, not understood. There's a lot of confusion and illusion, and we know that a lot of at least the source of the current, animosity between South Africa and the United States has got a lot to do with who says what, with whether it's people around Trump whispering into his ear, AfriForum in South Africa creating a certain image that they've been pushing onto the United States. The planet Neptune of illusion and delusion and confusion and every illusion you can think of is sitting right on our point in the chart, which relates to interaction with foreign governments, friends, and enemies. So there's a lot of confusion as who's a friend, who's an enemy, what happens next, and what is the truth. And that is going to persist throughout February. There are still indications that in the longer run, we are going to gain. There are going to be changes throughout, presumably all the way to the middle of the year, judging by what the year ahead chart said. There'll be changes throughout this month and all the way through to the middle of the year with regards to foreign policy and how we handle other countries. And there certainly will be a certain amount of realignment in this country as we deal with the fact that America wants less to do with us. Um, it's not possible to tell the extent to which South Africa may or may not bow down, accede, or whatever to the United States, but it doesn't generally look very good with respect to that relationship, or in fact, in our international standing in general, which has been thrown a bit of a curveball and there's a bit of a wobble. We also see in South Africa's chart that in terms of our image and who we are and how we stand in the world, that is very shaky at the moment as well. Literally, there is a shadow cast over that area of the chart. You know how the moon makes shadows as it passes around and around. That shadow is falling right on our image as we speak. So it's difficult for us to know exactly who we are and what to portray, and for the rest of the world to see us. So it's that kind of a crisis, if you like. But nevertheless, as I've said, and as I've said before, say with regards to the G20 and South Africa's current leadership of that, and so on, that will involve in a certain amount of realignment and readjustment and new perhaps trade allies and reworkings of various trade allies and so on as South Africa adjusts to its changing international affairs. So foreign matters continue to be shaky in South Africa's chart for a while to come, and certainly for the rest of this month. And not surprisingly, that does affect our financial fortunes, as the United States and its policies have impact throughout the world in terms of financial matters. And we can see February does not look great for the currency and for economics in general, although there might still be benefits to come eventually out of changed international and trade policies and so on. Certainly looks as if new legislation and new agreements are being worked upon, but we're not seeing results of that. And as I said earlier in the year, there are issues to do with Parliament's spending of money and Parliament managing that in some way. Kind of we need to get into plugging up the holes. And a lot of what the chart is saying is focus on the local domestic matters in terms of the economy so that we are stronger in order to deal with whatever may be assailing us from the world at large. A very challenging, difficult planet Mars has been very active throughout January, causing a lot of international disturbance, also possibly related to the various the dramas, if you like, of the plane accidents and earthquakes and so on. While those things happen all the time, earthquakes and plane accidents happen every single day. It's what becomes part of our story in the world at this particular time, what is part of the narrative. It's how they get drawn into that narrative. That's very much what Mars, the aggressive, undermining planet, is all about at the moment. And Mars is very prominent in South Africa's chart, especially in financial matters at the moment. So it does make February look very challenging financially, and we kind of have to hang in there and grit our teeth as we look to improvement in the months after that. We can see some benefits continuing in our areas of sport and entertainment and areas of the chart which are really mostly reminiscent of what brings us together. You know, we've created a new GNU. Nelson Mandela's government was a GNU in the hopes of establishing some kind of harmony or union out of that situation which we had before. And we also know that it's sport that really brings this country together, and that looks promising in the chart at the moment and in the month of February. So hopefully we can use our commonalities and the successes of our entertainers. Well, we've already seen that manifesting itself. A South African winning a Grammy and international film awards, all in this period as well. We probably can see more of that as the month continues and hopefully into next month as well. So that hopefully remains not only a point of union, but from the chart's point of view, a point that can really take us to another level, unify us in a way. There are those that suggest that, you know, when the world turns against us in one way or another, it's not about us taking sides, as so many people in this country do, and we're in danger of splitting ourselves the way we've seen the United States increasingly doing to itself. But it's an opportunity to bring us together and really say, at this time, what makes us South Africans? And it isn't about politics, which is the point. It isn't about politics. That isn't what makes us South Africans. Not even GNUs make us South Africans. But we express the best of ourselves in sport and other recreational activities. That concept of the best of ourselves in astrology is really what we're born with, what our natural gifts are. And when we look at that as a country, what we've always been able to offer the world is the possibility of, you know, union out of all the diversity. And maybe that's what the world really needs to learn from us, as the world reacts by trying to clamp down, and the United States reacts on trying to clamp down on diversity. Diversity is what characterizes this country. There would be no benefit in abandoning that. The benefit would be in allowing that to be our strength, which has always been our motto. So that's why that happens to be, perhaps no coincidence, the strongest part of the chart right now. Finding ways that our diversity in all its forms really allows us to go forward and perhaps set a light into the world that can give them something else to look at and something else to think about. perhaps the way to take the unwanted spotlight that Trump has put onto South Africa, perhaps a way to make use of that to say, well, if you want to look at us and if you want to have an issue with diversity, look how diversity can be about a good thing, not about a political policy of one kind or another, where it clearly causes trouble, but where diversity is actually about something about the human beings, something about how our differences make us still one country. Because that is, of course, what is under attack. It's not just a policy and its consequences in the US that is under attack, but it is also about people and how they see themselves. And in this country, where diversity is really so core to what is the character of this country, we must use that diversity as our strength. So that's where we find it. And that can help us overcome some of the other local issues that are in the chart as well. It still looks like a challenging month for service delivery and how those things affect everything else. Challenging month for our relationships with other countries, all of those things that I mentioned, but those challenges are not who we are. The who we are now is what this is all about. And I hope we can react to that spotlight on us by really asking not who are our political masters and what are they doing, but who are we as South Africans and how can we as South Africans show that diversity is our strength. And speaking of diversity, let's look at those 12 different signs and see what you can expect in the rest of this month. Aries kind of looks like one of those frustrating months in that it'll feel that you're kind of working on your own, spending a lot of energy without getting that much in return, and maybe not even realizing the results that you're getting, but you are. I have to say, this is a great month to be knuckling down. Unfortunately, you might not be able to see the results yes, just yet, but they will be coming. So you've got to do that knuckling down. It's like your month for working in a vacuum. There's no evidence to show all the results are going to happen and all that hard work is good work, but the goals will be met and the results will eventually be shown. Be aware, unfortunately, that that is going to create a bit of an intense energy around you that can also brush up against the loved ones and others around you. So take special care not to allow that kind of inner frustration, not major frustration, but don't allow it to bleed into the world around you and your interrelationships with others. You might be feeling isolated, alone, and frustrated. That's not going to help it. Spend some time, quality time, breakaway time with loved ones. Crack down on your own stuff. And by next month, you'll have a greater integration between all the stuff you've got to do and your world that you find yourself in. You won't feel so alone in that. Keep going. Taurus, this is a good month to build a foundation. That can mean getting something started, or even if you've got something already undergo, just those initial things beginning to gel more and turning them into a foundation. So it's time to kind of make sure your projects, your goals, or whatever are increasingly ready to go, that you've got something solid to work with, either in starting them or in whatever you've started actually now making this into something. It's almost like I'm saying it's time to stop dragging your feet and whatever ingredients you've got on your table, you are now ready. So let's see some action happening. And action is great. Your chart says it's a great month to be using your natural skills and talents, to be using them to your own benefit, not other people's benefit, perhaps for a change. So that's also going to help you along. It's going to be hard for you to identify that. And that's something you must be careful that you don't end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot or holding yourself back because you're failing to recognize your own skills and talents this month. Push yourself, go ahead, make your claim, even if you're not feeling as confident, even if you feel like you're faking it and having a bit of imposter syndrome. It's time to absolutely put your cards on the table, say, this is who I am and this is what I can do, and start building that foundation into something monumental in the end. Gemini, it's also a time for you to be looking at your most natural skills and talents, the things that come easily to do. And of course, they even are the things that you like to do because we all like to do what we're good at. This is your month to shine and show what you're good at. Even if you've been concealing or holding back or doubting some of your own talents, not really so much about doubting them, but maybe doubting their usefulness in whatever the situation is right now. This is the time to horn them out and let them all know what your talents are. But remember, it's not just for them, be they your employers or co-workers or the world out there responding to what you do. It's also about you. This is a great time to be concentrating on house and home. I mean, so much so that if you wanted to move a movie's in the offing or something like that, this is the move month. But it's especially time to be kind of creating your space. So it's working on your home, making your home your castle. You know, your creativity arises out of the fertile ground that you stand in. So you've got to make sure that that ground is fertile by making the environment special to you and making your environment something you love. So working on home, working on your own space is going to allow the rest of uh, the talent and the natural abilities to really shine. Start at home, and the rest happens all on its own. Cancerians, hopefully you've had a bit of a break lately because it looks like there's a lot of hard work on the go. It's kind of a little bit of slog work and a little bit of, goal-oriented, inspiring work. But that altogether means it never rains, it pours. There's a lot on your plate, and you're going to have to find what's the best thing for me to do. While all kinds of work are operating, like I said, it's really the kind of level of chores and the clearing out the baggage and the stuff that you need to do in order to get ahead everywhere else in your work. That's really where to be focusing. Although there will be a lot of demand from your professional life, there might not be, at least yet, the results that you're hoping to find. So that can take a little bit of time before you really see that it's getting you anywhere. But nevertheless, it's still worth whatever all the work is all about, putting all the energy into everything. That is really what this month is going to produce for you. It's not going to be easy to see some of your professional goals, so really focus on practical, bottom line, down to earth things, similar to the chores you've got to do at home. That's what's the grunt work I need to do in my professional environment. That's going to expose the opportunities to then do the more interesting work. Get the hard stuff done. Free you up for next month. Leo, this is a great month for learning about and creating boundaries, whether that's in your personal life, your professional life, and if you have one, even your public life. I mean, we all got to have a bit of a public life. It doesn't have to be that you're a public figure to have a public life. We all deal with other people in general and might in our working environment deal with them and just by being a person living in a world. Well, for whatever reason, your lessons of boundaries extend there as well. And sometimes boundaries also help us define ourselves more clearly. And that's a very important factor in your chart at the moment, that you've really got to have a very clear sense right now, who am I and where do I stand? That's especially important in your one-to-one relationships, both your personal ones and any professional one-to-one relationship you might have, because those boundaries are looking a little bit blurred, and that's looking like that can produce a bit of a problem. You need to speak up. That's the real issue here. Speak up and speak out. Make yourself heard and use your voice to establish your boundaries. Also, just focusing on matters back home. Make your home your castle. The best boundary starts on a solid foundation. Build a foundation, you'll have the boundary. Virgos, it's time to plug up some of those holes. You've been letting your skills, your money, your resources, whatever it might be, it's different for each of us, but you'll know what it is for you. You've been letting those things that you should be able to use for yourself to drain too much into the world. Worst case scenario is that other people might have been taking advantage of you, other people might have been taking advantage of what you have to offer, all those kinds of things. Well, maybe you need to be a little bit selfish at this time and realize that fundamentally your skills, talents, and resources are meant for you. Even though you love to help and offer service, and that is what you're supposed to do as well, you need to have your own strength and your own resources in order to be able to offer everything or anything to anyone else. So it's really just about having a very good clarity around what's yours for you and what do you need to use for them and the world, and also what you need to use for them and the world must also advance your own goals. It looks like this is a great opportunity for you to reverse the whole situation and say, what has anyone else got? What have they got that I could use right now to get where I need to go to? So, in the end, it's also a great month then for cooperation. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. What can we get from each other? But it's the proper use of resources and just make sure you're not draining them. Libra, it's time to diversify in some way. It's time to really maybe get a bit beyond your comfort zone, but it doesn't even have to be that it's the comfort zone that you're stretching. It might just be time to think about things that you haven't done that maybe you have wanted to do or speculated about, or maybe they haven't even crossed your path before. Hopefully, those will be offered directly to you, and you can see this is a great time to be doing things you haven't done before. And it's really just about shaking up your picture of yourself. We tend to get quite complacent about how we see ourselves, and we get into old habits about what we can do and what we think we can do and everything like that. So this is the time to shift that around with new input, and it's also non-critical input. In other words, it's not something that will test your goals, and if you don't get the outcome, something fails. It's not one of those times. It's much more one of the times where you stand to benefit the most. Hey, maybe it's try something new in the arts because you do love the arts, or meeting new people and other kinds of new input. But you'll find that by stretching your boundaries, your barriers, you're breaking them down and changing your version of yourself that you're so familiar with, you'll also change how the rest of the world responds to you and open up many new doors for yourself. Scorpio, in some way, the prize is yours this month and they don't even know it. So, what that really refers to is you can kind of fly below the radar at this time. Whatever you need or whatever you're trying to achieve is actually within your reach. But it's not necessary for you to rope everyone else into that goal or to help you along or any of those kind of things. Flying below the radar means not just that you're ignoring everyone or anything. It just means that that's not what the priority is. The priority is you just got to stick to your stuff and do your stuff. You might actually be feeling a little bit isolated, and that would improve the ability to fly below the radar rather than feeling resentful or cut off or alone. This is really the opportunity for kind of you do what you need to do at this particular time. Sometimes we can't quite see for ourselves what is exactly the end goal in terms of our whatever we're doing to get there, and it gets a little bit confusing. The radar also means trust your instincts, just trust your intuition, move forward quietly, don't make a spectacle of things. You're getting there slowly but surely. Sagittarius continues on the roll that you've kind of been on for a little while, in that it's really easy for you to get whatever you're trying to get to during the course of this month. Hopefully, those are meaningful goals, professional goals, things that can have a lasting impact in your life. But even if not, this is really the month to just go where the open doors and the flow seems to take you because it's working for you. In other words, at the very least, this is not the month to kick back, sit back, relax, chill, take a holiday, because you'll be wasting the opportunity for easy gains. In fact, those easy gains go a little bit further. It's almost as if something is protecting you this month, and that means you can afford to take a few chances and take a few risks. It's like luck is on your side, the odds are in your favor. So, going forward at this time is probably going to produce the best possible results. So, it is really then an ideal time to actually set some important goals. What you are going to have to deal with is that in your personal life, especially to your partner, it's going to seem like a work versus home thing. It's like you will seem to be neglecting what's important in your emotional life. So that's where you need to create the balance yourself. Make sure that all this opportunity doesn't cause you to neglect your emotional life. Keep the balance and you keep the good results. Capricorn, it's kind of a lay low and regroup kind of a month for you. There might be some new things that have come into your goals and your processes because you've recently had a birthday and you've probably got new things underway. But you need to go slowly for this year. The year's already got a massive momentum of its own. You do not want to get swept up in it. Capricorn, your chart is telling you to pay attention to your spiritual life, your inner life, your own inner important sense of who you are. As much as you're a strong sign, you are also kind of in the public eye or in the eye of the people around you, always seen as the reliable, respectable, all of those kind of things. And your image of yourself can be too much dominated by this expectation that the world has of you. So, Capricorn, your chart this month is saying, get back to what you know makes you who you are, makes you what you are. Build that sense of value in the world from yourself rather in terms of how everyone else sees you and expects of you. And by paying attention to inner life and quiet, private, spiritual life, that's going to help you do it. Get your priorities right, Capricorn. Aquarius, this is a great go get it month for you. It looks like there will be clear and even immediate results from putting things into action, acting on your goals, all of that. It does mean that you're going to have to rely on yourself, which is not something that you averse to, but that if you have been expecting or needing things from other people, well, maybe you're looking in all the wrong places. In fact, if that is true and there's nothing that you could do to change that, what your chart does show is that help from further afield is better. If there are ways to get it from far away, overseas, those kind of people, that's where you're going to get the most benefit in terms of input from others. But actually, as I said, it's best for yourself. The results of what you do will show. This is the month to create your own security and create your own results. It might not be enormously abundant, say in terms of financial results and money and what exactly comes out of this, but it certainly will build and build. This is an opportunity to build a foundation out of your own efforts. Even if you're not yet seeing the very massive rewards that you might hope from them, you'll certainly be able to see that this is working. Let me carry on doing what I was doing. Let me make sure I am my best resource. The results will keep on flowing. Pisces, of course, every now and then it's important for you to get your house in order. While that's true for everyone, I literally mean your house, your environment, your desk, whatever it may be. I don't want to accuse you of being messy because that can't be true for every Pisces, but things do tend to accumulate where you just have poor categorization and organization that's getting in your way. Well, this is the month to sort it out. And of course, it's the month before your birthday. It is important that you actually get the opportunity to clear out old habits and clear out old patterns and do what you've got to do to kind of make space for you to do your new goals, your new tasks, your new projects that will emerge after your birthday next month. So this is really the time to kind of tie up loose ends, finish unfinished business, clear your path, and like that, expect good results in terms of finance and other resources. It is a great month for getting those kind of results out of what you do. Money might not be flowing to you abundantly, but it's building very slowly. Make clear goals, but to get to those goals, ditch some of the old baggage, clear your space, and you can get there more easily.